when you were interviewing your gentlemen from World War One, did any of them mention like the psychological impact that had on them in terms of killing, or was it more of a block? I've just they just push it down to the bottom of their brain, and it's
Very few of them would talk about that. And it's not to say that everybody in that situation, you've got some people who their whole career was being a typist somewhere,
hmm,
but they're generally talking about people who, been at the front. For most of them, it was just, it was focused on staying alive, eating. Okay, food was very important. Um, Probably the most interesting guy that I interviewed was actually he was the shrink of a coworker of mine. So I don't know, she was seeing a shrink, and she goes, "Oh, well, my psychiatrist, he was a German army veteran in the First World War, so he'd probably be willing to talk to you." And now, keep in mind, this guy's a psychoanalyst. He's a Jungian psychoanalyst. So his first question when I come to interview him was why I was interested in doing this. So he goes, "Well, there's some reason why you're interested in doing this." But he was an interesting character, but he really wasn't interested in talking about it. He goes, "Well, have you ever read All Quiet on the Western Front?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, you got it. Okay. You want to know what my experience was? Everything but the last page in that book. That was my experience. I didn't die. That's it. Read it. There's nothing more I can add to that." But he did have this thing, which I can't say it made a big impression on me at the time, but it has since. And he goes, "Well, there's really only one thing I saved from that. There's only sort of one memento that I have from it." Because I got medals. I don't know what happened to them. I was never interested in them. I gave them away, threw them away, or whatever. But I go, "I do have this one thing." And what it was that he'd shot a guy, he'd killed a man, um, who was a British soldier or officer, and he'd shot him. And he could remember shooting him, and he goes, "When I shot him, he sort of jumped like a rabbit. That's the only thing I can be, because I'd hunted rabbits before." And he dropped. And then we would do what was, one of the things that often happens that people don't talk about that much is going through the bodies. You're looking for stuff. In his cases, they were looking for, what was it? Was it chocolates and, whatever it was that they had, because the German army at this point was short of food. Allied troops are better, so you would go, but you would just go through and see what you could find. So he said he got into the pocket of this guy, and there was like a waterproof container, an oilskin type of thing. So there was something fairly important in that. And looking for maps, whatever you could find. And so this guy had this thing in this inner pocket, and it was in this waterproof pouch, and he pulled it out, and it was just a piece of paper. And it's an interesting type of thing, because all that was on this piece of paper, which he showed to me, is an outline of a small hand in sort of red crayon. And you can see that basically a child has put their hand down, and they trace their their hand on it. And it just has the words written under it. And see, "Daddy, see, I'm this big." And it's interesting that that was the one thing that he saved. And I think because it had a real sort of impact on him. So he actually had an interesting way of describing that. He said, "That's my ticket to hell." So